So how many of you have heard about SABMiller at this point? Nice. Okay, if I'd asked that question about 6 years ago, there might have been two. So that's really good. Our beer's getting around. So who are we? Just to understand kind of what we do and the remit that I work on. We have over 200 brands in over 75 countries, 6 continents, pretty big company, 32 billion in group revenue, and we're the second largest global brewer. And I like saying we're the second largest. I don't like being number one always, because InBev is actually number one. And that's okay. Our drive is to be the most respected beer company in the industry, and I quite like that tagline. We have over 80,000 employees in SABMiller Group. So my job is slightly different than I think other kind of group head jobs in that SABMiller is highly decentralized. So I don't sit in some brilliant ivory tower. I have open plan desk like everybody else. I don't have headloads of people that report directly into me. It's more of capability development, center of excellence, leading best practices, trying to come up with the next best thing, where are we going, and as well, doing direct sourcing recruitment myself. So I will work on approximately 4 to 5 positions at a time, all of the kind of top 1 to 3 tiers of positions globally. So it's a very unique remit. What we're trying to do now is promote a lot of collaboration with our recruiters. We had 0 recruiters, by the way, when I started at the company 6 years ago. And I'll go a bit more into that. So things have quite changed for us. When I look back 6 years ago, I thought things were never going to change. It was going very slowly. But sometimes, 2 steps forward, 1 step back is not a bad thing. When you look over 6 years, you've seen how much has changed. We now, by the way, have 32 dedicated talent acquisition managers across the globe, which does not sound like much given we're hiring 80,000 employees. So we have a ways to go as well. So where we've all come from 6 years ago, because that's kind of my baseline since that's when I landed off the boat, as it were, from the U.S., not knowing what the heck I was getting myself into. Here's some of the things we were looking at. HR. Okay, HR, for a lot of us, still did recruitment. HR generalists, HR BPs. What that meant was that agencies did recruitment because, sorry, but HR is not recruitment. They don't enjoy recruitment for the most part, and if you do and you are HR, get into recruitment because you're in the wrong place. Recruiters enjoy sales. We enjoy marketing. We enjoy talking. Most of us are extroverts, let's be honest. I could talk, and create a phone book in a day. So I very much enjoy talking. So HR, that was our first battle. How do we get more strategic talent acquisition specialists, and how do we move that model into SABMiller? As I mentioned today, we have more of that model, long way to go. But it is good to see in 6 years we now have the dedicated talent acquisition managers in markets. Most of you will have that model now. There's a lot more in-house specialists, as you can see today. I would not have seen this 6 years ago. A lot of you have defected from the agency world, so congratulations. And what else? We're looking at direct sourcing. Not a lot of us knew what that was. It's a big buzzword. We were hearing more and more about it. Go on LinkedIn. LinkedIn obviously is not what it is today. We did not have the corporate recruiter profile that we have now where we can access anyone. All about your network, first, second, third degree. So I come from the old school of this, whereby I don't rely on that. I continue to network and build my network. So I think first degree people on my network, I was really excited recently because I got over 10,000. So I'm 10,500 something people in my first degree network. I never want to rely on the fact that LinkedIn will always be there. You never know what these companies love LinkedIn. I know LinkedIn will be speaking. They've gone public. Things change when that happens. Will they ever take off the corporate recruiter panel? Will it become £50,000 a year? to use that? I don't know, but heck, I'm not going to bank on it. So I'm going to continue to do all the networking and all the banking of people that I have in my network, whether I know them or not. So we didn't really know around that. That was a big buzzword of the time. Post and pray, that was still alive and well. We were still doing newspaper ads. Some of us still do, and I don't think it's not non-relevant. You have to look for what company you are, where you're working at. Keith gave a good example at a conference last week when I was talking to him, whereby I think it was some retailer he was working with, and they were looking for kind of lower level staff in their area. So it made sense to do that posting rather than a job board. So I don't think any of these are, let's just say it's yesterday's news, don't ever consider. It's what are you looking for, where do you need to target, and where are you going? Agencies, well, for us at least, I don't know if you are in this case, but it was 80% agency at PLC, which is in the UK for us. Now, today we hover between 75 and 80% in-house, direct sourcing. The other 25% will be employee referrals or promotions. And then we do use agencies from occasion. I mean, I don't think agencies are bad. I don't think they will never be relevant. I just think you have to consider your whole strategy and where is it the most relevant. Oftentimes we use agencies at the low end, not at the high end, which is kind of counterintuitive. I do the high end. Agencies do the lower end because we don't want to spend our time working around that. Plus the cost is lower. So. And then 2.0, that was another buzzword. What's 2.0? Do we need to become techies? God, I hope not, because I am not a techie. Never will, but God, do I love researching on the net. That is fun. So we didn't know where we were going. I think if you talk to Matt Jeffrey, we're on recruitment 4.0, maybe going to recruitment 5.0. He has some good arguments for that. Who knows? Love to debate with Matthew all the time. And then social media. We're looking at LinkedIn, Zing, Viadeo, I always say this wrong, Facebook just starting, Twitter wasn't even around, right? So I actually had Twitter on there before, and I go, wait, 6 years ago, we didn't have it. So weird to think of that. So when we look at the future of recruitment, I'm sorry, but the game has not changed. And, I feel like I'm reiterating things that Keith said, but that's good. It means we're on the same page for most of us. We're still recruiting to get the best talent. We're still targeting passive talent. If you're targeting, I don't think we should ignore active talent, but if you're just looking at active talent, you're obviously missing over 50% of the workforce that you could be targeting. And passive talent, I think most of us know today, the stats are they tend to be more loyal employees, they tend to stay longer, and they tend to be higher performing. So we're always targeting those. High potentials, always looking after them. Networking, buzzword of the day. I am possibly one of the biggest proponents of networking. That's all I do with everything I do to get the right person. Research, I do think that recruiters need to, you can have researchers, but I do believe that you need to be a great researcher yourself. To make sure that we are targeting everything to see what your researcher is doing. If you have one, I do not have one. I like doing it myself. Personally, I absolutely love that piece. I should just go back to that sometimes, but I still like talking to people. Cold and warm calling. I think it used to be more cold calling, and we're working more towards warm calling, where you have somebody or you can find someone that knows the person, they're 90% more likely to call you back. And again, it's more towards the phone now. I am getting back to basics. People are getting sick as heck, I think, of being contacted on LinkedIn. This is the downside of what happens when LinkedIn grew extensively. Fantastic. I still use it like you wouldn't believe. But a lot of times people won't get back to you anymore because they're getting so many in-mails from so many other people that can also access the system. Our in-mail rate went from, I think mine was around 90% a couple of years ago, to maybe 35, 38%. It's hard to track because a lot of people come just direct back to me and you can't track that. But that's huge. So what are we doing? Where can you find their phone number? That's actually where I use Facebook and Twitter. So if I can't get the person via LinkedIn, their in-mail's cut off, right? they've taken themselves off in mails. I start looking at, are they on Twitter? You know, a lot of times on LinkedIn, they'll have the little tweeter area. So if they're on Twitter, great, I tweet them. If I start looking for them on Facebook, I send them a message on Facebook. I look at, some people haven't set their privacy settings right, which is great. So I start looking at who knows who that knows them. Find whoever you can figure out who knows who, so that you can say, hey, such and such, Louis Montoya, you know, told me about you, recommended you. 9 times out of 10, I'll get a call back then. Selling the opportunity. We are in a sales and marketing business. That's what we do. And I don't think of selling as just, we sell. So let's look at how we sell, right? You need different modalities of sales. How do you sell on an ad? How do you sell on to somebody who's sitting next to you in the airport? How do you sell to somebody on an elevator where you have about 2.5 seconds? How do you sell to someone who you know wants to get off the phone with you and you have about 30 seconds just to give a quick speech? So you really need to think about how do you sell in these different situations, because it's not all the same. And who are you talking to, obviously? And be real about it. I mean, I hate to say this, and this is just my own pet peeve. You know, we have recruiters that have come to us from agencies, and I've been at an agency in the past too, but there just is a different sales style to people who've been at agencies a long time. And it sounds like a sell. It sounds like an agency sell, and it just kind of grates me. I'm just real. Just be real. Be yourself. Come from the heart. People like that. It works. So, and then selling the candidate. You actually stole something from me. No, I don't know. Maybe I stole it from you years back. But when I'm selling a candidate to line managers, I mean, we're looking at market analytics. We're looking at how market conditions, who is going to be a best fit for this, personalities, who's the best fit for their group, the culture of the company, all of the things that you already know. But when I'm talking to line managers, and I've told them this and when I've trained them, and I've told recruiters this when I've trained them, it's like dating. Recruiting is dating. I'm sorry, we're one friend who is a little bit crass once called us people whores. So we're in the business of people whoring. Hate to say it that way, but hey. So when you're looking at that, okay, let's just put it for instance. When I was looking for a mate, a husband, been divorced once, so second time around, Match.com, you know. I had my long list of what I wanted, right? Very long list. You know, has to be over 6'3", because I don't want to tower over him in heels. Has to be funny, obviously successful, obviously good looking, great smile, sense of humor. You could go forever, right? But when you actually meet the one, right? He's 5'9". You know, slightly getting a little bit bald as years go by, probably because of me. You know, all of those things kind of go out the window, but your top 3 will be there, right? Whether it's successful, sense of humor, makes me laugh, you know, whatever those top 3 are will be there. And it's the same when you're hiring for a line manager. That line manager will give you that ridiculous long list. You go, yeah, okay. Right, sure, I can find that for you. But then, of course, who they hire, you go, well, you said you needed this, 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 and this. They don't have that. They don't have that, and they don't have that. And they go, yeah, but I knew when I met them. Sorry, same difference. So, but they had the top 3 that was important to them. So it's getting those line managers to what are those critical top 3. Do you care if they put the cap on the toothpaste wrong? Probably not at the end of the day. But do you care that they are motivated, they are passionate about their work, they enjoy what they do? Perhaps. So figuring that out and selling the candidate appropriately. And as Keith said, because I am a firm believer in this, so the game hasn't changed at all in recruitment. I think we're back to basics. But what has changed are the way we go about finding the candidates, our social media enablers. So research, networking, and we could add a whole bunch of others on here, of course. Those are just your select few that I think are probably up there on the most popular. You could also add, you know, how else do you do research? Where are you going to find niche candidates? Where are their professional affiliation groups? Or where do you do Google searches and find, and I'm talking, well, in particular for myself, about some of these top tier folks. I mean, it is easier to find people who've spoken in in conferences, what they've said in magazines or any kind of other areas where they might be speaking. So really doing that deep dive research and casting the net wide. And then you have your talent pipelining enablers. I note Avature because we do use Avature, although all of us don't because we have the lovely SAP as our applicant tracking system. And sorry, but that doesn't do it for us. So for those of us that are doing more of the direct sourcing and we're looking more of the longer term perspective and trying to develop those talent pipelines, a select few of us are using Avature, which I'm not working for Avature, but I love it because it is very customizable. And we're using the LinkedIn Talent Pipeline tool. So I guess I'm kind of, at this point, I'm still riding that, what do I use which for? Because I do feel like I'm doing some duplication of effort. But we're on LinkedIn a lot. All of our recruiters are on LinkedIn. So it is important to capture all the data there. Avature works a bit differently for us, so I could show you in a second how I'm using that. And then most of us have applicant tracking systems with heightened sophistication. Unfortunately, we are not one of them, but we are looking for a kind of bolt-on tool for the front end so our candidate experience can look different. And then virtual interviewing. I don't know how many of you are doing this. I mean, it seems, whoa, rather basic. But Skype interviews, okay, so I don't get to meet 3/4 of the people that I'm recruiting. They're all over the globe. And it's awkward for about the first, 3 to 5 minutes. The feed's always not perfect, but you get to see them and you get to see, are they a culture fit? You get to see them in real time, and it just gives a better feel. And I feel like since I've been doing that, the people that I've been able to, X out of the system and the people that I've kind of promoted, I think I'm more right on with them because you can tell the culture fit so much better than when you finally meet them in person and go, oh, not what I expected. And then telepresence. We have put telepresence in a lot of our locations from a regional perspective, so we are doing a lot more telepresence interviews, which are absolutely fantastic. So just to give you a sense of how we're doing something, I'll give you a very pertinent, still not filled yet today job. So I received this role around September 1st, okay? And I inherited it from someone else that it wasn't really going well. So here is the remit. Gotta love this. Regional Director for Talent Management for our Latin American operations. We have 15,000 employees in Latin America. They contribute 32% to EBITDA, so very important. Bilingual, Spanish obviously and English. U.S. citizen or green card. Innate ability to challenge senior leaders. They have to have psychometric assessment expertise, absolutely. Have to have a IO Psych degree in psychology, at least a master's, in order to understand and do our psychometric assessments. And they have to have experience within the Latin American region, working within them to really understand the culture. And I understand all of this is critical for this role. These aren't things we can, I tried. These aren't things we can really put by the wayside. I understand the importance. And talent management, regional or group level experience, probably a minimum of 10 years. And ideally from a multinational company in FMCG. Great, okay. And oh, by the way, they want to interview first week in October. Okay, sure. So, took myself off a lot of other things to do this, but we're doing well. Obviously, I did the LinkedIn emails, and I cast a wide net. I don't just email the people that look like they'd be a fit for the job. I emailed them, their brothers, their friends, who knows who, and I'm really reaching out wide. Took a look at what universities would they have gone to and which are great universities in Latin America for psychology, and then put that, in the filter in LinkedIn to see who then was in the U.S. that went to those universities, because 9 times out of 10, they'll probably be from there. In the back end, we had some postings working World of Work and SIOP, which is Society of IO Psych, an IO Psych one. So we did that. We haven't gotten too much from that, to be honest, but I always think you need to have those working in the background for you. You can't ignore it. LinkedIn referrals, warm and cold calls. more warm than cold. And there were quite a few people that I wanted to target very, very hard that I could not get. I couldn't get their phone number. I couldn't get their LinkedIn, email, any of these things I could not get. So I kind of started looking much, much, much deeper to see who knew who. Went to all those people, started sending them emails until I got their direct email address and or phone number and called them. One of those right now is on our short list. So it just shows how you have to keep going that next step. IO Psych groups on LinkedIn, definitely reached out there. And then one thing that I did that I don't always do, I researched all of the IO Psych top universities across the U.S. There's about 30 of them. I wrote to, no joke, every single professor at those universities because they're not all going to forward it to each other, so I figured I'll do that. Yes, some of them did say, you forwarded this to them, I've already got it 12 times, but I don't really care because you know what, it's working. And 2 of those people have forwarded great folks, one of which is on our short list. So you just never know where people are going to come. Then of course we also looked at the top Latin American psychology institutions as well. So this is just an example of how we do this. Obviously, I took out a lot of info I'd normally have in there. So what we typically do, this is the LinkedIn talent pipeline. And for this particular person that I did talk to, and unfortunately, she can't move for the role, and that's why I used her on this. But I did have her email. I did have her phone. That would be added. We had a whole bunch of notes who had referred her to us initially so that I can be able to track that going forward. And you see right there where it says the tag in the middle. I'm tagging people for future positions so then I can just click on that tag in the future, have all of these people that I've already developed as part of this search for future when we have another position of this nature. And at least be able to start from there. You can add a resume to it. Be honest, I'm not really doing that. I'm putting that in Avatar. But for the basics, this is very good. And you can say outreach underway or your status, and you can customize these different areas. So that's LinkedIn. Avatar, you know, this looks a bit blank compared to how it would normally look because I had to take out some information. Obviously, I'd have our contact details. This area right here is all customizable. I like to have a quick area where we can see all the details that us recruiters kind of want to see immediately. And these I have filtered to the point where if I'm doing a spreadsheet for line managers, all of this will be able to come up in that spreadsheet for them immediately, along with their status and all of that. And what I have done, I have all the other different tags so that, again, easier to find this person for future positions, and tag them to a dummy job for down the road. Yes, I've got to hurry up. See, I can talk way too much. All right, I thought this was going to be too short. All right, so result, 3 weeks later, boom, boom. Around 86 candidates. It's probably way more today from when I developed this. 18 Skype and phone interviews, and that's now probably about 25. 5 line manager phone interviews. Obviously, we keep going on this because you can never bank on anything. 3 shortlisted candidates. I hate to say one dropped out yesterday. Going to be moving back to South Carolina. He was so perfect, too. It kills me. But I've got some more on the run. Any rate, we're going to be interviewing 2 of those in October 4th. Do their assessments. So this is all in a month. And I'm sorry, but this is a tough remit. So I'm not sure an agency could have done any better. So if we revisit the future recruitment, the game hasn't changed, just the enablers. The things I would change, I'd say we're more marketing the opportunity and marketing the candidate. Yes, we're selling, but it's more about marketing now. So we have to put our marketing and brand hats on. And I think that's where things have changed. I think it's more about warm calling than cold calling. I don't typically do a lot of cold calls. I'm doing calls where I know someone and I'll kill myself to find somebody they know, to have a name. It develops a relationship much easier, and your callback is at least 90%. But all the rest, we're still looking at the same things. I don't think a lot's changed. You know, we keep looking at all these futurologists in recruitment, and I hope I'm not putting anyone down about that. But it's interesting to listen to them. We're very much into technology, but I don't think the game has changed. I do think in a lot of ways we get back to basics. Alan Whitford calls it back to the future, so I kind of like that.